welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. We are so grateful to have you and honored that you chose us as your podcast today.
Yes,
Yay.
yes. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of our new beautiful subscribers on YouTube. We really appreciate you, and we love watching our channel grow and that our audience and our community is growing. I really hope that you guys are getting great information out of the information that we're sharing.
So, how have you been feeling this week?
Interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me more about interesting.
Well, let's see. I had kind of an opening of awareness that I wasn't expecting. And that has quite honestly changed my perspective of, well, basically everything.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a big statement. It's changed your perspective on life itself and the life that you chose to live.
Yes. Yes.
So, I would really like for you to share this dream because it was really profound. And when you shared it with me, it was kind of like I was a bit in awe of just the perspective that it granted you. So would you do us the service of sharing your dream, please?
Yes. And so we're about to go into the rabbit hole of the woo. And I say that with the utmost respect of the spiritual community because we're right in there with you. So buckle up your seatbelts and let's have a walk through my dream. Oh my gosh, where do I start? So
The beginning.
I go to bed, normal night. I normally stay up later than my husband. I fall asleep. And I am immersed into a extremely vivid dream. I mean, so vivid that when I woke up, I had to do a double check on who I was, right? And where I was.
Like go look in the mirror and verify?
I had to go look in the mirror and verify what I look like. And so in my dream, I was given, and this is the part that's kind of weird for me, right? Where I'm saying it's a dream to you guys because I went to sleep, a situation happened, and I woke up. And so because of that pattern of what took place, I'm going to call it a dream. I'm questioning that as my days are going on, right? Like what I experienced. So we'll just go with dream for now because that's all I know how to describe it as. And so in this dream, vividly, as in as vivid as you are sitting next to me right now, I experienced every life that I have ever, and this was happening rapid. And when I say rapid, it was like taking a book and just flipping through the pages, right? Mm-hmm. You know, like when you thumb a book. Like it was happening like that, but at the same time, it was almost as if it was a blank notebook that you draw a half of a face and then the rest of the face. And then you know how like when you animate a stick figure to move.
Yeah.
So
like the flip book comic strips kind of thing.
Correct. Right. Mm-hmm. So it was almost like every page that flipped through rapidly was me in this form, in the sense of my name's Shyra and I'm mixed and I have dark hair or blonde hair or burgundy hair or slightly light brown eyes, but the same exact shape, the same nose, the same lips. I was skinnier in one. I was a little bit more overweight in another. Found it a little funny that this is the heaviest in any of those experiences that I've been. And my style was a little bit different. And then my husband was not my husband in certain aspects of this page and certain pages, but I was always with him. And so
like in a relationship with him.
We were in a relationship of some sort. Right.
Okay.
And so our friends were the same, but then some of them were different, but it was all happening simultaneously.
So you are seeing different versions of yourself.
Yes.
With different details.
Yes.
All happening at the same time.
All happening at the same time. This put me into a completely different perspective of it's all happening now. right? So when you think of multidimensional reality, and how some people say that they have experienced moments in their life where they have lifted the veil for a short period of time of seeing all the different dimensions that are existing, and that we have a parallel, exact same, but different in some aspect, life happening or playing out. Like all your options are playing out. It was like that. So everything was different to an extent of, here are all the different paths that you could have taken, but they're all playing out right now.
So the phenomenon that came to mind was deja vu, in a sense, as far as that being aware of different experiences happening simultaneously.
Right.
Okay.
What the most, as if that wasn't mind-boggling enough, I knew all of it. I had full awareness of everything, full awareness of why I've made the decisions that I've made, full awareness of the people that I've interacted with, full awareness that on a soul level, that every single person I have ever interacted with has come into my life and interacted with me in a very specific way to teach me something. But on the soul level, they love me, they care about me, no matter how that experience was with me in those lives, in this life. And that they did that as a connection with me to help me become or go to a specific lesson. The full awareness of all the decisions that I've ever made, and that I was aware I was going to make those decisions.
So you were seeing your soul contract with this life.
And then some, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Give me some more about the and then some.
I didn't just see it from my perspective. I was seeing it from the perspective of those that I've interacted with as well. I remember specifically this, it was almost like, you know, like at the end of a wedding, at some weddings, people will walk in a line, in a singular line through to the bride and groom and say congratulations and give them a hug. It was like that, but for me. And it was every person that I have ever interacted with or that I felt hurt by at some point, coming by, telling me how much they love me and that they were really glad that we got to share that experience together and to see where I'm at now and like all of that.
So were these like related to recent memories?
No. There were some of the individual faces, and I'm telling you, I saw them as clear as I'm seeing you. Some of these people I haven't seen since childhood, since high school, since my early 20s. And I promise I'm not saying anybody specifically here, but people I haven't interacted with in decades that I don't remember, you know, that clearly. I haven't thought about at all. And
so no like real reason to be triggered to for them to be a part of the stream necessarily.
Right. But I saw the connectedness on how I feel about certain things now and how those small, even small, like really small interactions. It could have been somebody that I remember a specific way that they smiled when we were in the same room, but I never talked to.
So like a butterfly effect.
Right.
Being aware of.
Right. And I can remember the clothes that I was wearing. I remember my hair was different colors. Like I always, which was interesting because I had just been talking to my hairstylist recently that I just want to do like this random streak of color in my hair, but I don't know what color. Well, apparently I've experienced that random streak of color in like a multitude of parallel realities.
Because you were talking about doing burgundy.
I was talking about, I was talking about doing burgundy, and I saw that I did like a white streak. I saw I did a blue one. I tried green. I've tried red. I've tried pink. I've tried, that one was interesting because I was like, I would never do that. So like, I don't even wear pink, you know, let alone put it in my hair. So it was interesting to see, like, even if I looked down at my hand, I would see that my nails were rapidly changing colors. Like I was wearing different nail colors or nail patterns or whatever. My ring changed all the time, or I wasn't wearing one. It was like me right now and the time frame of the life that I'm in right now, but I was different in each one.
So not necessarily like past lives in a different body, because you said that you were the same
Right.
or a similar Shyra. But what you're saying is that this dream detailed the different lives that you are living currently at this moment,
Right.
like the different spider webs of possibilities.
Yes.
So, what do you think was the purpose behind this dream?
Well, I've been asking for it, right? I think all of us at some point in time, if not all the time, what am I doing here?
Oh, yeah.
What is my purpose? I woke up and I fully knew what it was. And I've been pondering on this because I can actually recognize that my human mind is grappling with it, right?
Tell me more about that. Like this, the mind versus the experience.
So had I not gone through learning how to meditate, learning how to connect with my guides, learning how to channel, learning all these different abilities that us humans have when we're in the physical, that we're so much more than these physical bodies. Had I not been learning half of this, this would have been a complete mind F. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
It'd probably be easier to dismiss it too.
oh, way easier to dismiss it. Whoa, that was a crazy dream, you know?
Yeah.
But the fact that I consistently challenge when I go to bed at night, hey guides, let's have a conversation. Show me what it is that I need to see to help me gain perspective on what I'm doing here and if I'm on the right path. And I'm constantly asking that. And my dreams are usually pretty vivid. And I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, let me repeat this over and over again, because I always get a message when I wake up in the mornings, right? Like as soon as I wake up, massive thought. And I'm like, okay, let me try to remember that. But I'm terrible about writing things down. I don't know why I do this. I should just put a journal next to the side of my bed, but I just don't. And
I've given you several.
you've given me so many cute ones. You even tried to shrink one.
Yeah, it's sitting on your desk upstairs. I know. I saw it
And so
today.
she's like, if I make it smaller, she'll put it right there on that nightstand. I think I even found like a miniature pen just so like it doesn't take up much room. Anyway, still terrible about it. So don't beat yourself up if you're like me. But this, on the other hand, full remembrance. I remember the whole thing. And I think that's the part that's making it so much more unique than any dream, you know, using quotation fingers here, that I've ever experienced, is that usually it starts to fade throughout my day. But there are some like, you know, profound parts that I'm supposed to remember, I think. This, I remember the whole thing.
So give us the juicy details. How did this change your perspective?
Well, okay. Number one, knowing your purpose, you know, I think this is the part that's even a bigger conundrum for me, is that it's not changing my day-to-day activities outside of how I'm looking at them, right?
Your perception of them.
My perception of them. So I still have to go to work in the morning. I still brush my teeth. I still take showers. I still let my dog out. I still feed myself. I have definitely noticed that my physical body is now having interesting reactions to food. So I've noticed that it doesn't want to consume, even though I want the taste buds, right? The brain wants to constantly throw in logic. And I'm like, you can't unsee that. Once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. And so I'm constantly having this like mind moment where I'm like, nope, that happened. Stop trying to logic it away. It happened. You can't unsee it. And I feel lighter. I feel a little bit more like, well, shit, I chose all of that.
So that's the perspective shit.
Right.
Shit. Shift.
That's awesome.
That was not intentional.
Are you sure?
Subconsciously, I can't confirm one way or the other.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's enlightening to where I actually feel like I can be helpful not only to myself but to others, because I have this thought now in my head of why we're all doing what we're doing. And now I don't know every person's individual, right? Because I didn't get their flash.
Mm-hmm.
I got my flash, right? And I saw it from the perspective of others, but they still had their own experiences. So I also was aware of that, right? Like, even though they were on a soul level that they agreed to interact with me in a certain way, they also had their own journey to be on and things to learn and experience. And I was in agreement to be a part of that as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? On all of those levels, on all of those parallel realities. And the fact that this took place over a course of a few hours and I experienced what felt like lifetimes,
Mm-hmm.
like this is the part that the brain's having a hard time wrapping itself around, is that it's constantly wanting to question, are multiple parallel realities real? And I already know the answer to that. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right. And the guides have told us that, even in channeling, listening back to those conversations, they've said it. I don't think I ever thought I would fully understand what they were talking about. And I think I've said this before, that I don't think I'd ever understand something to that magnitude unless I wasn't here. But to go through that kind of an experience, you can't undo it.
So why do you feel like you needed to experience we'll call them negative events through other people's eyes? Why do you think you needed that experience?
Well, because the human side of me the egoic side of me, the protective, when I say egoic, the protective side of my human self wants to blame others for all of those interactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I played a part in it too, because I wanted to experience that. And even though I don't necessarily, and that's a hard thing to hear for those that have had some seriously negative, shit happen to them.
We've already said it once.
I'm gonna say it again. And I have too. I've had some pretty horrendous things happen to me, and I'm not willing to share that right now, but trust when I say that was bad. And so when I'm saying this out loud, I understand that somebody else listening to this, that somebody else hearing what I'm saying right now is probably going to be like, no, right? Because again, had I not saw what I saw, had I not been through all these processes of opening myself up and yada, 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 right? Like I would say the same thing back to somebody listening to this, right?
That responsibility pill is a tough one to swallow. That's a horse pill.
It is a horse pill to swallow. And I also think that I had mentioned this NDE that I had watched on YouTube. And I remember this individual having that experience. And when she got injured and actually had the death, she had that experience with her guides where she could pick and choose what type of injury would she sustain coming back. And I was like, wow, that's wild. Like, wait a minute. And I wasn't really sure if I was on board with that, to be honest with you. I think a part of me was like, okay, like you just have a jolly old time picking these things out up there, right? Because you're looking at it from a different perspective. And I was just having a hard time with that.
Yeah, what a wild perspective to have, right? Like this level of detachment.
Yeah, she was right. But she was right. Because somewhere in a perspective of something with that level of magnitude, right? It's hard to explain, but like that level of awareness and disconnect from the physical, you understand that this lifetime is not the only lifetime that you're going to physically experience. And you understand that everything that you're doing is at a collective conscious level of growth, and it's perpetual and it continues. And so when you are looking at it from that perspective, and I don't even want to call it a higher perspective, it is just us. It is just who we are. And so when you're looking at it from there, then yeah, it's probably a lot easier to disconnect. But when you come back and you have to feel it, and then you have to take ownership of all the things that you've ever been pissed off at someone else for, and you realize that I did that, I made that choice, I could have chosen any other path, maybe, like,
Maybe.
like you have an aha moment. I fully understand why some of the struggles that I've had with maybe what I do for a living, or some of the struggles that I've had with relationships. I understood why I chose to get cancer. That was a big one. Yeah,
Even just that statement right there is tough to hear.
it is tough to hear. It was tough for me to hear it. It wasn't tough for me to hear it in that moment. It was tough for me to hear it in
To
my
process
head
it.
and to process. Yeah. I completely understood the whole thing. And that's the part that's I'm still processing. I understand it. It was clear, right? 'Cause like I said, I remember the whole thing. There's no gap of memory here.
Yeah.
But it's still like, okay, what now? Like, what do I do with all that?
So when you woke up or in the day's sense, what do you feel like the lesson has been from this experience?
Well, so I'm leaving out a big part of the repeated lesson that I saw, and that's just out of privacy for me and my relationship, and I'm going to continue to leave that out. But one of those was that lesson. That was a big one. But learning to let go and to trust in my own decisions, and that the decisions that I make, that I move forward in doing it for the highest and greatest good of not just myself, but for others. There was a huge lesson in all of it with being more willing to help others, which is something that I think you and I talked about before, where I wasn't sure if I was going to do that or not. So that was made very clear. Now, they didn't show me, unfortunately, on how I plan to move forward with that, because they were like giving me present stuff versus
As far
future.
as like readings.
Right.
Gotcha.
But so I still have to work through that. But it was clear that none of us are here to just help ourselves. Because if that was the case, you would see nobody on this planet besides yourself.
Well, and I think that's part of the discourse right now is there's so many people that are living in or with a self-serving attitude.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that is also part of our growth. I did get one that allowed me to let go of some of my personal fears. And that was related to the thing I'm not going to discuss about my relationship, but it allowed me to let go of my fear by receiving that information. And so that was helpful because I have trust issues. And so that was really helpful.
I mean, being able to let go of a fear
Alone.
that's huge.
Yeah.
Especially like recognizing that you don't necessarily have any control over that in this life.
Right. Right.
And being able to let go of that. I can only imagine that that's probably a weight that's lifted off of your shoulders.
Well, yeah. And the thought of control itself and how so many of us feel like if we don't put a really profound amount of control over our lives, that will go out of control. And I can pretty much feel very confident in saying that that's never going to be the case, that all of it will happen the way it's supposed to happen, and that it is 100% your focused attention on and intention on what it is that you're trying to experience. And there's so many of your loved ones, whether you perceive them as a loved one or not, that will help you along the way. And that is whether or not you want to have an experience of being a drug addict and living on the streets and running into making friends with all the others that are doing the same thing, or handing you that needle. Believe it or not, behind the scenes, they love you and they're supporting you in your experience.
I think that's a tough one to really wrap your mind around, that the pains and hurts that you feel are caused by other people are actually contracts that you've made at a soul level.
Yeah. It's messed up. It's because the societal norms, we're putting those on ourselves. That's all us in this thing called being a human, and this reality that we're living in. And believe it or not, also, it's only in certain aspects of the planet that we're deciding to incarnate on. So
I think one of the really cool thing that you kind of hit on was when we are up and out of this immediate physical experience, all of that like guilt and shame and anger and resentment, all of that is gone. It's left behind on earth. So once we leave these physical bodies, our souls don't carry that on.
No.
And I think that's a really beautiful thing to process and reflect on, because us now, if we are worried about souls holding on to that, that is something that we can allow ourselves to let go of and maybe find forgiveness for ourselves.
Absolutely. I think one of the other ones that I'm going to be working through for quite some time was all of my decisions to continue consuming processed foods, to continue to drink alcohol when I feel like it, to continue to, utilize things that I know that have chemicals in it. All of that is here as a contribution to my experience and what it is that I want to do and how long I want to be here and all the other things. Like, all of it is a decision that I'm making, and it is completely my decision, and nobody's enforcing that. And that I have the free will and the power to come and back and say, I don't want to participate in that anymore if I choose to or do. Right? Do I feel that my enjoyment is having a glass of wine tonight, whether it has an actual physiological impact on me, right? That is my choice to make.
It's just doing so consciously with awareness.
Right.
Versus like going on a binger and not being aware.
Right.
Or not wanting to face the awareness.
Right. Did that too. Once upon a time. So
we've all been there, done that. Yeah. Like we'll just call it like 20s.
Thank God there was no Instagram back then. But yeah.
Oh my God.
It's just MySpace. So yeah, it was extremely wild. Extremely wild. I will process that for the rest of my life.
I think it's really cool how vivid it was and how memorable it was. Like, just from my own experiences of working on my dream journaling the past few weeks, like, it's a struggle.
I'm watching back-to-back episodes of the Pretty Little Liars series. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I'm totally into that right now. And I wasn't thinking about any of this.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about, it's not like I was like listening to one of the Brian Scott videos or anything of that nature. Matter of fact, I didn't even listen to anything going to bed that night.
It's almost like when you... like, there's part of the struggle, right? The little bit of a conundrum. Like, you put the intention out there to, like, know your dreams, and it's not until you're not putting that intention sometimes that you actually remember.
Man, it's just like when they tell you that, like, if you stop looking for the relationship, it just...
like manifesting.
Right.
You want it, but don't want it too much. Or you're going to push it away.
My gosh, that thing is a beast. Yeah, I agree.
So, it's not easy. If it was easy,
we wouldn't be doing any of this. Like, that's too easy. I'll choose a different planet. You know?
I'm going to have a different setup.
Yeah. Over that one.
Alrighty.
So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing your dream. That was really interesting.
Yeah, I know. I'm still thinking about it all the time. And I'm like, well.
Like, it's almost like looking at a kaleidoscope of Shyras. Aw, I would love that.
Oh, really? I'd have to, that would be like looking into your own kaleidoscope of Shyras. That would be weird for me, which happened.
Yeah, no, I'm saying from my personal perspective, I'd love to be surrounded by Shyras all the time.
I love you. I freaking love you. Guess what time it is, you guys?
It's that time.
It's time for the collective card reading, everybody. Ooh, what do we got today?
All right. Today we are using the Psychic Tarot Oracle deck by John Holland.
Woo woo.
Did you, are we doing just 1, 2, 3, past, present, future, just whatever the guides think we need to hear?
Well, before we decided to hit record, we picked one card. And I was thinking about sharing that dream because I had already shared it with Carrie. Poor thing, with your look on your face when I was telling you all this, I was like, oh my God, I've officially freaked her out. So,
nope.
Good. So
You haven't run me off yet. You're not getting rid of me anytime soon.
So the first card that we received today, which Carrie's going to put on there, I actually asked them, should I share this dream? And the fact that this is the card that came out, Destiny. And
With all the different people, like the different perspectives of this one person.
right, with the flower life symbol behind it as well. Like that was confirmation that, okay, cool. Well, we're going to share this dream and hopefully it helps somebody. So my intention when shuffling for the next 3 that we haven't seen was that you receive something that helps you along your way.
Alrighty then. Bring on the help. Light. Number 19.
Of course.
Okay, so this card, she is looking up at the light. She's got like the stars shining behind her, and it's just illuminating out of her right hand lifted up towards the sky. And again, this is a helpful card, like leaning into the light, leaning into the kindness, leaning into the joy, the positivity, allowing that to shine through you and letting that guide you on your path as well.
Absolutely. I was also thinking about the fact that she's reaching towards all the little lights and like little star images.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like she's reaching towards them. And it just reminded me of all of those that are around you that are here to help you achieve that goal.
Very nice.
Yeah. Cool. Do we read from the book at all? Oh, you know what? No,
Let's
I'm
just
good.
go intuitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the light really represents helping guide us down the right path. Not that there is a one right path, but for lack of a better words, let the light guide you.
There you go.
Card number 2, heartache and loss.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. So this one here, blue and green background, kind of reminds me of like the bronze, like bronze when it changes colors. I don't remember what that's called off the top of my head. But there is a woman standing in a blue-green gown looking down with her hair covering half of her face. She looks a little forlorn, like she's grieving. How does this help us?
Yeah. So the first thought that popped in my head when I saw heartache and loss was the thought of feeling like you've lost who you are and grieving the old version of yourself. And I just wanted to help maybe remind somebody that you've never lost who you are. You are who you are, and you're just moving towards becoming who you've always wanted to be. And every step and every goal and every valley like she's standing in that you're taking is just one step closer towards the journey that you were always meant to have.
I think that's beautiful. That's a great reminder. I also, in addition to that, think that we can perceive that heartache and loss, but when we zoom out, like you said, we understand why.
Yeah.
And so we may not fully grasp the why we have to experience that in this life, but the day will come.
Yeah.
The time will come. The moment, the experience, the unity will come.
Yes, it will. Oh.
Allow yourself to grieve. If you're going through that, let it out. It's okay. I know it hurts right now.
It can definitely be very painful, and I've done it multiple times. And I'd be remiss to say that oh, you do it once, it'll be done, you're over. But it's an ever-growing process, and I feel very encouraged to say this. But if you have experienced loss recently, and you are suffering and you're feeling pain from that, I do hope that even if it's momentary comfort, please realize that they're never gone. Their experience was their experience, just like your experience is your experience. Their time was meant for that point in time, even though it is really hard to perceive that. And it's always the heartache for those that are left behind, because those that have moved on are in their peace.
Absolutely. They've let go of all of the lower emotions, and they only want that peace and that happiness and for you to experience the love that they have for you. I actually was watching a show, and something profound was just said on the show, and I had to rewind it, and I like recorded the like couple of lines, and it was, death does not separate, death unites.
Yeah.
It is life that gives the perception of separateness.
That's stunning. I love that. Love that.
All right, card number 3. How else can you help us? Oh, the third eye chakra. Okay, I can absorb that.
Maybe tell him what the third eye chakra, for those that may not be familiar with it, is meant for.
So, third eye chakra is deeply connected with our intuition and our psychic skills, our reception of information from the unseen. And this is a huge help because intuition can guide us. Intuition can give us a feeling of what feels right versus not right. And that can be a guiding light towards what we need to experience in this life.
Absolutely, you can. So if you were looking for a little bit of a reminder, maybe asking yourself questions of, should I practice more my intuition? Or should I be listening to the thoughts that I'm having repeated over and over again? Just start with your awareness, like we've discussed before. Start with your awareness, and then maybe start asking yourself a few more questions. Questions like, why am I having this thought? Why does this keep coming into my reality? That's a big one. That's a huge one, actually. Normally, your guides are pushing you into scenarios to help you along your way repeatedly over and over again when you are really needing to learn something. And whether or not those scenarios can be different, that's one thing. But the base message of it all is that listen to your intuition and receiving that information. If you have, I'm going to link a third eye chakra meditation that we've done before.
Nice.
I'm going to link that down below just because if you're struggling with this, that is a very helpful meditation and it's quick.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, it's so often our mind can logic things away, and logic doesn't always mean correct.
Right.
And there was a podcast that I was listening to. The rational mind separates us from the intuition.
Yeah. It can drive a big wedge between those two things for sure. And I know that, just from my experience recently, that I'm going to be working through the struggle that's happening in my logical mind with what I experienced. And I know that what I experienced was as real as it can get because it didn't feel any different in reality than it did with us sitting in this room today. And because of that alone, my knowing is telling me that all of that happened. And my brain, even though it's fighting it, and it was like, it's just a dream.
In the days following, when you first shared the dream that you had a completely different, presentation of yourself. Like you were lighter, you were happier. You even said the difficulties of your work did not feel as difficult.
Right.
And that's something interesting that I think is relevant and something to consider is when you are in a joyful state, the struggles don't feel as hard.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't. When you also know that a majority of your struggles you're bringing about yourself.
Ugh.
That's a pill.
I told you that horse pill.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, dang it. That was me. You're right. That was me. Yeah.
Don't forget forgiveness.
Don't forget forgiveness. And speaking of not forgetting things, you know what I'm saying? Don't forget to where is it at? Subscribe, hit the notification bell. It's down below. It really does help our channel grow. Having a day today.
We have a website at lovealwaysself.com. You can find these cards and all the other cards that we use on the shop Amazon section of our website. Again, lovealwaysself.com.
Yep. Don't forget social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. All of them are at Love Always Self. Yay. I got it.
We did the things.
We did the things. We did all the notification things.
Thank you guys so much for being with us and for continuing to support us. Please share because sharing is caring.
It is.
And on that note, don't forget to love first
Love last.
and love always. Have a wonderful day, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shyra.
And until next time, remember to love first
Love last.
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.